Okay, they should be on now. Okay. You got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
a regular city council meeting of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington. It's September 23rd, 2025, and the time is 6 p.m. The meeting is being held at the Ocean Shores Convention Center, and the meetings are simulcast and archived on KOSW Radio. Meetings are live streamed with closed captioning and may be accessed on the city website under council recordings. The meeting can be viewed on Cable 68 on Thursdays at 12 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Sires?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Griebel?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Scott?
Here.
Councilmember Wills?
Here.
All right, can we have Lisa Griebel lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
You need a motion to excuse.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Hartman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to amend the agenda to remove item, or not to remove, to move item agenda number 10, the IAFF discussion, and put that at the end of other reports, or I guess at the end of item number 1.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so done. All right, we have no ceremonies or proclamations tonight.
You need to
Announcements?
approve as amended.
Oh,
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Announcements, board and committee vacancies, 1 vacancy on the Planning Commission, 1 vacancy on the Lodging Tax and Advisory Committee. We have no appointments tonight, so we'll move to the amended agenda. Item number 10 will be up next, and that's with the IFF Local 2109 union representatives. You come on up to the table. Right. Do you guys have a slideshow?
Yeah, we submitted it through email. I gotta hold my iPad up, but it's just, it wouldn't do.
It won't work for the crowd, that's for sure.
Bear with us for just a second.
No problem.
It is attached as an agenda.
And we'll get it going here in a second. Apologize for that. I guess we're going to go ahead and take a break. You got it? Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll start the meeting back up when we get the slideshow going. All right, we'll resume the meeting after our technical difficulty here, so you guys go ahead, get started.
All right. Good evening, council. My name is Caleb Towery. I am the Secretary Treasurer of our Firefighter Local 2109. Next to me here is Matthew Reitmeyer. He is the President. And we're here to talk to you about a pending article in our current CBA. It's Article 40, our substance abuse testing policy. We can move to the next slide. To give you a little history on this policy, in 2022, our previous mayor and our previous union president entered contract negotiations for our CBA. A lot of things were discussed, including Article 40, but ultimately, the only thing holding up the CBA was Article 40, and both parties agreed to finish the contract, leaving this paragraph in Article 40's place. And as you can see, the paragraph states that the parties agree to continue to bargain a new substance abuse policy defining testing procedures and testing limits in monthly labor management meetings until it is completed within 2023. Next slide. So the union and the city did continue to meet and develop Article 40. And at the city's request, negotiations were put on hold due to the election cycle. Following the completion of the election cycle, a previous version of Article 40 was presented to the city council by the city attorney and ultimately was voted against. But Article 40 is still being negotiated. It still needs to be completed. And it's been a point of conflict between my members, the local, and the city for some time now. And we're trying to get this completed to avoid, further negotiations, issues, arbitration, and everything. Next slide. So what we've done is we've created a new Article 40. Over the years, there's been new testing methods, new science, and we've shifted it a bit to focus on when and how our members are tested. And we've also removed all permissible use of THC from the original Article 40 that was previously presented. Next slide. So a big focus is when our members are tested. Now currently, as many of you may know, during business hours, when an incident happens, our member is taken up to LabCorp in Aberdeen, and they submit a urinalysis. And while we wait for the results of that urinalysis, that member is put on paid administrative leave, and it's likely that that member's position would need to be filled with overtime. Now, outside of business hours, we don't have a way to test our members. LabCorp is not open on the evenings, it's not open on the weekends, it's not open on the holidays. And our employee handbook states that drug testing will be done within 36 hours of an incident. Now, with these weekend gaps, holiday gaps, and everything, there are many times where an incident could happen and testing could not be done in time, ultimately resulting in an irrelevant result in the test. So our new proposed method would be immediately available. It's reliable, cost-effective, and it's safe. And we've also established a tentative agreement with a lab here in county to have a backup confirmatory testing through blood that would be available 24/7, 365 days a year. Next slide. We'd also really like to send our members to reasonable suspicion training. Now, currently, our leadership is expected to identify signs and symptoms of a member that may be intoxicated and have that member tested based on reasonable suspicion. But our leadership doesn't have any formal training in recognizing these issues. And so what we'd like is there's an OSHA DOT course in reasonable suspicion training. It's online and it's $50. We'd like all our leadership to go through that to empower them to request that test if they see those signs and symptoms and fall back on that formal training to really justify their reason for testing. We'd also like our members tested after any injury or near miss incident where it's reported to OSHA and any incident involving medical or law response. Next slide. That covers when. The next big change would be how. And this, what we'd like to switch to is these oral swab test kits. Now these are approved through the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association as well as the FDA. And they have a 2-year shelf life, so we could keep them in stock at the station. They'd be ready to go 24/7. They're about $5 to $6 a test, pretty cost effective, and they have over a 99% accuracy rating. Now, ideally, after an incident, the fire chief would be contacted requesting a test, and the fire chief or their designee would come in and administer the test. Once administered, the results would be available within 10 minutes of the administration. And If negative, that employee would go right back to work. Now, this saves in paid administrative leave costs, it saves time, it saves overtime costs, and it increases our responders' availability to respond to calls, getting that member back on the line. The other thing we really like about these is these test for the scheduled drugs that we manage in our ambulance, in the safes that we use, that we have access to every day, as well as all the drugs that are in the employee handbook that are currently tested for. We think it's extremely important to be tested for all of those substances, especially because we have access to them. Apart from this, we have set up a tentative agreement with Summit Pacific. They're the nearest facility that would agree to do blood testing 24/7. And this would be a confirmatory method. So if we get a positive result or an invalid result, we would have that member go and take a blood test for active intoxicants. Now, according to LabCorp, the blood test is the gold standard when intoxicants are suspected. It has a more accurate window, and it detects them faster than urinalysis. The other benefit to both of these methods is that both the oral swab test and the blood testing kit are directly supervised collection. Now, what that means is there's a very low chance of the collection or the sample being tampered with, because the person collecting the sample is directly witnessing either the blood draw or the oral swab. And currently, urinalysis is privately obtained and then handed over to the testing facility. Next slide, please. So overall, this policy implements a safe, available, cost-effective, fair, and just an overall better testing procedure that we'd have available 24/7. I put dozens of hours into research and developing this article, as well as the other e-board members in our union. It's been reviewed by our lawyer for legal issues, and I know it's been submitted to the city's attorney, and I haven't received any feedback about legal issues there. What I'm asking from you, council, is your support in getting this article implemented as fast as we can to narrow down those safety windows and to avoid any further problems that we might run into with this article not being implemented. I'd love to answer any questions or concerns you guys might have, but that's all I have, and I appreciate your time.
All right, we'll go to public comment. Do we have any public comment out there? Yeah, go ahead, Don. Hold on, Don, you got to turn your mic on.
Okay. First of all, I'm wondering why this topic's even at a council meeting, because it really belongs in contract negotiations. And I don't think anybody on the council is really involved in that. We don't have a policy yet where a council member is part of the contract negotiations. Maybe that's required. But that being said, I certainly agree that substance abuse by public employees is a threat to public welfare, stated right in the documents there. And I think that includes all kinds of intoxicants. I heard something about THC. That, to me, that includes marijuana. And the notes say that the council had a proposal a while ago, and they voted no. I was not at that meeting. It was voted at a meeting. I go to all the meetings. I never saw that being voted on. Maybe it was done in executive session, and if so, please explain why that was different from this proposal that we have right now. I think what's most important is actually I'd like to see the random testing of all city employees. That's my personal opinion. And I think what's important is what does our insurance carrier say? They should be the ones that actually set the threshold for what has to be done and how it's being done. And I think until they speak on this, if they have not spoken sooner, then they have to be part of this negotiations. And finally, my concern is that fire and police people are on call 24/7, and that's the reason that we have to have a substance testing at all times. I think because they're needed in case of an emergency. And what's going to happen if they come in? Someone comes in because they've been doing something during the daytime on their off time. They're under call 24/7, as I understand it. So it's important to have testing, and I would like to see it be done on a random basis. Those are my feelings. Thank you.
Go ahead, yeah. Jane?
Jane Shattuck, Ocean Shores resident. The saliva test is not appropriate for a city that enforces a zero tolerance policy. This test is designed to show positive results only when alcohol or drugs, including PCP, cocaine, fentanyl, THC, etc., exceed a set detection threshold. It will return a negative result even if those substances are present at lower levels, which is unacceptable for a zero tolerance standard. For example, with the saliva test, THC is typically detectable in saliva for only 6 to 24 hours and only when levels exceed 25 to 50 nanograms per millimeter. As a result, an employee could use marijuana outside the window or at a lower level and still test negative. Fire and EMS staff are responsible for protecting the public and saving lives, and they may be summoned while off duty for emergencies, relying on a test that cannot reliably detect any prohibited use exposes the city to serious liability if an impaired employee responds to an emergency. To protect public safety and reduce legal risk, the city should use a method that can identify any prohibited use, including past and beyond the immediate period of intoxication. Zero means zero, not merely anything above a certain threshold. For fire and EMS professionals who routinely hold lives in their hands, any detectable is unacceptable, and the city's testing policies should reflect that uncompromising standard. Also on page 57 of the agenda packet, there needs to be some clarification. It states the use of or being under the influence of alcohol or unauthorized drugs shall not be permitted. In a state where marijuana is legal, the word unauthorized creates ambiguity within a zero tolerance framework. To ensure the policy is clear and enforceable, the word should be removed. Finally, if the city cannot currently test employees at night or weekends because the laboratories are closed, it's a critical gap. While saliva testing may seem convenient and cost-saving, public safety cannot hinge on cost or convenience. And as Caleb just mentioned, there is Summit that is willing to do 24/7 testing within the required window. The cost of such testing should never outweigh the importance of accurate detection, especially since testing this kind only occurs infrequently. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments out there? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Council. Jan Hyatt, Ocean Shores. I agree with everything that the prior person spoke about. But my main thing is that our EMTs and our fire are on call 24 hours. And just to say that it's okay to use a little THC or TCH, excuse me, I'm not a drug person, TCH, above what it should be. I don't understand where the union might feel it's safe to our public for the EMTs to reach this level. And I hope that the union and the city can come to an agreement that puts the citizens more in view of what could happen if someone actually fails this test. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Bob Rhodes, Ocean Shores. I feel that this subject shouldn't even be brought up. These responders are required to be above normal. In other words, they're supposed to set a high standard for the way they conduct themselves. And I find it very surprising to hear about requiring drug testing in the first place. When I was a firefighter in Seattle, I didn't drink alcohol, but if I were to, and I got called off shift to a big fire, I'd have to tell them I was disabled and couldn't respond. And that should be the same case in this situation. I believe this subject is irrelevant as far as the conduct of our firefighters, I feel that this thing should be carried forward. And I think that if people are going to be using these THCs and such, they should find another job. I'm sorry, but this doesn't, we don't want this. I represent the people of this city. We're paying for public servants here, and they protect life and safety. And I feel that we need to resolve this. And if people are going to be using, they should look for another career. Sorry, thank you.
I think, yeah, go ahead. Over there.
Shannon Rubin, Canterbury Inn. I kind of would like to echo on that. I think that firefighters and EMTs should be above reproach. And since everyone is on call, and there is a risk if you were doing something in your private lives and then came and were called into a fire, I would certainly hope that there's a policy to recuse yourself from doing anything and being honest about that. But I further would ask the city, if you've talked to your attorneys about what the city's liability would be if you're using a swab test that has, as Jane spoke, levels that are acceptable. I would think if you, as she spoke, have a zero tolerance policy, that means zero. And I would think that the people in the city, as well as business owners and representatives, if you're saying you have a zero tolerance policy, that's what we're expecting. And if there's a test that you say someone's okay on because it didn't detect a minor level, and then you come to find out because there's some sort of tragedy, what is the city's risk exposure? And quite honestly, I think that anyone that's proposing this is kind of doing the city a disservice because it's not exactly honest. And I wonder why you're not being exactly honest, or you just go get a blood test.
All right, Sylvia, go ahead.
Hi, Sylvia Fain. I'm an RN. As I recall, now things have changed. I haven't been working recently, but THC stays in a person's body a long time, or can, right? Like in their hair and in their skin. So if you're swab testing, even urine testing, my understanding is it can be pretty inaccurate because the THC can stay so long in your body. The bigger of a user you are, the more it absorbs within your body, the longer it stays. I'm just pointing that out. That's all I've got. But it might be something you guys want to really look into before you determine, you might say, well, you were on THC. Well, maybe he wasn't, so just a point.
All right, any other comments out there? All right, we'll close that. Council, go ahead, Richard.
So I have several questions, but I'll start one at a time. So one of those questions is and there's a couple of people mentioned it. How long? No. With this swab test, what is the established level of this person is inebriated and this person's not inebriated? So where's that cutoff at, and how accurate is that cutoff? And I'm thinking about when I was in the Army, 24 years, senior supervisor for probably 15 or 18 of those years. And what I know personally from my own experience and from witnessing my soldiers, those people who came to work after a night of alcohol were incapacitated. Those people who came to work after a night of marijuana or pot were not incapacitated. So my supposition is that that person who legally comes to work as a fireman, who has had some alcohol the night before, and is still legal, and in our current policy, if I understand correctly, is not going to cause any hardship for that fire person. And yet, if they've got THC at some minuscule level, and now we're going to fire them, and I'm sure that policy makes sense to me. We've got career.
Richard, what's your question? Sorry.
So the question is, what's the cutoff? Where is legal and what's not legal in this test?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you know, every test has lower level limits, and I provide you guys with the data sheet for these tests. The cutoff is there's 3 metabolites in regards to THC, which seems to be brought up a lot. This does test for THC. There's 3 metabolites that it tests for at different levels, but they're well within the standard of any kind of intoxicating level, well below other contracts that I've reviewed. But it depends on the metabolite that you're looking at. And like I said, it's well within the federal standard for substance abuse. If you're testing negative on these, there's little to no substance left in your system, and certainly not enough to affect any of your performances or job duties or anything. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Right, Lisa Scott.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and maybe you can correct it, because there were a couple statements at the podium, and, you know, I guess I was fortunate enough to go on training with the fire department. And what I learned is they are each other's lifelines. If you have somebody on your team that is incapacitated, your firefighters are going to be the first to call that out. They rely on them in their daily jobs, and I can't see, even if it's a buddy, if they're impacting your safety, you're going to say something. That was one. But 2, they aren't on call 24/7. If they're working, they are. But if they're off shift, they're off shift. So if you're out having a couple drinks with friends and you get the call, you're not coming in. That is a judgment call as well. They know. So you want to speak to that, because I know it was in a couple questions, and I think it's important that that's out there.
Yeah, I'd love to. We're definitely not on call 24/7, like we said. We work a structured schedule, 4896, and when we are at the station, you know, obviously everything's great. And like you said, we don't want our members, you know, putting our lives at jeopardy or the citizens' lives at jeopardy. And maybe I just speak for myself, but I know I don't. We don't work here in Ocean Shores because we get paid a crazy ton of money. There's other departments that get paid more. I care about Ocean Shores because I care about the citizens in the city. I grew up here. I went to elementary school and high school here. I, was, all about this community. And this is important to me. And like you said, my partner is my lifeline. When we go into a burning fire, I know there's a chance that I could become incapacitated by one thing or another. And I do rely on that person to pull me out or drive my ambulance at 90 miles an hour to save a life or help me, perform medicine. There's no tolerance that I'm willing to give to, especially as far as drug testing in my partners. But yeah, like you said, we are not on call 24/7. We are only on call on our scheduled shifts. And if we do get called in because there's overtime or something, and we've had a couple drinks or something, that's what you say is I can't come in. I've had a couple drinks, and that's the end of that. We're not mandated to come in or respond off duty at all ever. But yeah, thank you for the clarification.
All right, Denise.
Lisa asked the question that I was going to, and that was to explain your on-call procedures.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I have one.
All right, go ahead.
Your first responders. I realize you're on shifts, 3 days off or whatever it is, just similar to law enforcement. But as a first responder, and we do get grant money from the feds every so often, it's illegal for the feds. It's illegal for under federal law to possess or smoke marijuana. Correct?
Yeah, and that's like I outlined in my slideshow. These tests comply with every federal standard, including marijuana. These tests do test marijuana, and they're well below the federal standard for the lower limit threshold that every test has, including the ones we use currently. It has no effects on our grants. I've done extensive research on that. We still follow the drug-free workplace guidelines with these tests, and departments that use similar tests or even less sensitive tests have had no effects on their grant funding. Does that answer your question?
It does, At the same time, being the prior law enforcement and working close with fire department and stuff, my personal belief would be no one smokes pot if you work for a law enforcement or first responder unit. And because of the risk that somebody may come in because they feel that they need to, just like law enforcement officers work way too many hours sometimes and still come back to work because they think they need to. But my thing is, if we have a no policy on you don't smoke, period, we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Other than for a wreck or something, a crash or
Sure.
damage to property, or maybe somebody responded to a crash, person died, and somebody sees an officer who they know smoke.
Yeah, I understand the concern there. I guess my opinion on the matter would be that I trust my members to act professionally and responsibly, especially when their partners' lives, the citizens' lives, and their professionalism comes into play. I don't think under any circumstance any member is going to respond in whether they're intoxicated, whether they've been smoking, whether they're too tired when they're unfit for duty. And we trust our members now to do that. I believe we trust our members to save lives, manage narcotics. We trust our members to be fit, to be able to act and ready for duty. And we currently trust our members not to respond intoxicated with alcohol. And that, you know, your concern that a member might respond while under the influence of anything is disheartening, I think, for me. I don't think any of our members would do that. But to reiterate, this does test for marijuana and its psychoactive metabolites. And so if there is psychoactive metabolites like the Delta 9 or Delta 8, this will detect it and will be positive. And so will the blood work at Summit Pacific. So I'm having a hard time seeing the issue there, but I do feel like I hope I've answered that question.
You have answered the question, yes.
Anything you'd like to?
I'd love to add to that. Matt Reitmeyer, president. I'm a previous resident of Ocean Shores. I've been here. I just stood before you a few weeks ago, taking the promotion of lieutenant, and I own on that a responsibility to my crew and to the citizens to provide a service and have stability, and I need the tools to be able to do that. Right now, I don't have the tools to test my members on the weekends, at nights, to meet the standard, as well as something that's quick and detectable that we can trust. The limits within this is going to cover everything that Caleb has said for grant money, for safety. I trust these tests and I trust my members. I can tell you right now, coming from, I live in county, but I live in McCleary. I work the 4896 schedule per our contract, and I work overtime. I would never come into work under any conditions of too tired or intoxicated from alcohol, which is current standards. And I am not ever called in mandatory to the station on my days off. I only come in at my own will, and I come from McCleary. If there was a structure fire, many of our members live much further than me. In this case, Caleb lives very close to the station, as well as a couple of other members at our department. The days of everyone living in the community they provide services for are not the ones we live in anymore. We have people coming from Eastern Washington, Oregon, Seattle, Snohomish counties, all over. They are not responding on a fire. That's why we always ask for more people and more help for the on-duty crew. So just to kind of touch on that, it got brought up by several people at the podium that there was concerns over us having to respond 24/7, being available on our days off. And I think that it would treat anything. And I also I feel like this gets dangerously close to the previous proposal of this old article that is a completely separate issue, that this is, again, not a permissive use policy, and I can understand some of the confusion about that because of the testing change. The test is much more accurate at a lower limit. It tests for everything within the standards, and actually, there's no such thing as a zero test. Even the urine test that is currently employed by the city doesn't test to a zero. There are certain lower limits that are tested by any test. This is going to be our most accurate, most secure chain of custody. most readily available for me to take care of as a new lieutenant, take care of my crew, and make sure that there are people that are safe to respond to this 24/7, 365.
All right, Allison.
So, are there other fire departments that are using this?
That's a great question. This test specifically, I wasn't able to find the specifics of the brand of tests or anything. There are other fire departments, several other fire departments that are using saliva-based testing currently. A lot of the fire departments that I found that are using saliva-based testing have limits that are double what we're proposing now. So these are much more sensitive and I think much more safe. Like I said, our citizens and my partners' safety is my priority. But there are several other departments that are using these or a form of these.
Can you tell me who some of those are?
Yeah, I can pull it up right here. Actually, I was able to review, and time's a crunch, but I was able to review 63 contracts. Several of them didn't have substance abuse policies that I could access, but 27 of them did. And of those 27 contracts, substance abuse policies, there were 24 that were a non-prohibitive language, and only 3 that were places like Everett, North Whatcom, South Whatcom, Aberdeen, Walla Walla, Vancouver, the city of Olympia, South Pierce, Pasco, Bellevue, Snohomish, Mason County. There's several places that even Mason County and South Pierce and Aberdeen, they have a lower limit of 100 nanograms per milliliter. We're looking at 15 to 50. And like President Reitmeyer had said, there are no tests that are zero. At least I couldn't find any. And the tests we currently use, the urinalysis, you could pull up, and for THC, for example, because it's a very popular topic tonight, has a 50 nanogram per milliliter threshold. 50. We're looking at 15 for the COOH metabolite, and like I said, other departments are looking at 100 nanograms per milliliter. So like I said, the vast majority have similar language, several using blood and saliva, several using the federal SAM-HSA standard like I proposed. This is not unique or unusual, I would say, by any means, especially now. This is really more towards a standard, and especially one of the things we run into is our inability to test our members 24/7 because we just don't have the medical resources out here. Bigger cities have more labs around that are available to test them. We don't. Like I said, the closest place that we could find to do blood testing, not urine testing, but blood testing 24/7 was Summit Pacific in Elma. And so that poses a significant problem for us, and a problem that I think that these oral swab test kits can help resolve by testing our members and having our members that aren't intoxicated ready and getting back to the line to serve the community after proving that they are not under the influence of any substance.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa Griebel, did you have a question?
Thank you. I just wanted to hear the clarification of one of the questions that Tom asked, which was, are you aware of any departments? You went through the list of ones that have made this kind of change in their contract. Are you aware of any departments that have had federal funding denied because they made these changes?
No, and we dug into that because obviously we rely on that grant money too for our equipment and staffing and everything. There has been no effect that I could find that as far as grant money to departments. And after looking into it, the standards of the that grant money, those grants, is still we still comply well within compliance of the Drug-Free Workplace Act and the other federal standards. So to answer your question, I've found no negative effect on grant funding for any of these departments that I've been able to look into, or the standards, therefore.
Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for all the information. I do have a question, though, because an employee has to sign their consent to be tested. What happens? The policy says that they will it will result in disciplinary action for insubordination if they don't sign. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so obviously we want our members tested, and in an event that our member needs to be tested, they do need to be tested. A failure to comply to test would, as you said, be considered insubordination, and the member would be disciplined as such. And that is up to the administration how far that disciplinary action goes. Oftentimes, it does lead to termination. And it'll be, obviously a case by case, it'll be looked at, but the insubordination is one of the highest, disciplinary actions that can be applied. And so we take it very seriously. And, in the union, like I said, there's a standard of act now, grieve later. If you have an issue, we can resolve it after. But does that answer your question? The insubordination? Okay.
All right. You got one more question? Richard, we want to move on.
So it's 2:00 in the morning, and there has been some type of an incident that triggered the need for a swab test, and the swab test either came back inconclusive or positive, so that person has to be transported to Elma. How does that happen? Firemen go off duty to take this potentially inebriated to Elma? What's the mechanism that this person gets transported?
That would kind of be ironed out after this is implemented. Those are kind of the finer details. Ideally, what would happen is we would call the fire chief to come perform the test, and the fire chief would take that person to Elma or their designee. We wouldn't be able to take our staff off duty, but we would definitely find someone to take them. Obviously, we can't have them driving if we're suspecting them of intoxication, especially after a positive test. It's a huge liability. But we would find a way, likely the fire chief, but we'd have to iron that out in the fine details after that was implemented, I would say. Do you have any?
We would essentially handle it the same way we do now with the test. Whenever we have an incident that happens, someone is assigned from the fire chief or designee to take them in for drug testing with a positive. The hope with this is that we can get quick negative results to eliminate overtime costs if there's no intoxicant. But if it's inconclusive or positive, then yes, it would require similar actions as to what we do now for drug testing, which is taking them out of service and having them driven up.
All right.
Easy.
No way. You have another question?
I do.
Okay.
So,
make it quick.
Now Frank made me stumble on what I want to ask. Flew out of my head, so it must not have been that important.
All right.
So sorry.
I just want one quick question.
Yeah, go
wrapping
ahead.
it up. But so I realized that this was part of your current contract, that we would look at this paragraph, and we had questions on whether or not this shouldn't be part of that. But I understand you want to resolve this before the next contract negotiation, if possible. So administration, if we wanted to do something with this and make an amendment, what's our process?
The process would be after negotiations and we come to some kind of agreement, we would bring it back for council's approval. That's how that works.
So do you need something from us, like a consensus that you want to do that, or?
No.
No, okay.
No.
Thank you, Lisa. That was my question.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next, public comment to council is intended for communication to the city council regarding general council business or policy not on tonight's agenda. Address comments or questions to the council body, not to an individual member or staff. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We request comments be nice and respectful. This is not a question and answer time, and the council cannot engage in conversation with the public. No person may use the public comment for the purpose of campaign or advertisement. The city council will begin the time once the citizen has started their public comment. At 2 minutes, you will see the green light, followed by a yellow light indicating 30 seconds remain in the public comment period. The red light will notify the reader that the public comment time has ended. Order of public comments will be first individuals attending in person. Second will be individuals attending remotely. Third, general public comment, whether in person or remotely, will continue in the usual position on the agenda. Public comment for the agenda items that were removed from the agenda would be after the conclusion of general public comment. We don't have that tonight, so go ahead, Scott.
All right, we only have three this evening. The first, Tom Hamilton, Peace and Unity.
Tom Hamilton, Ocean Shores, Mayor, City Council, City staff, my fellow citizens. This past Sunday, September 21st, was a wonderful turnout to celebrate the International Day of Peace. 60 people enjoyed an abundance of delicious food, fantastic music, and great company. Endless thanks to Johnny the Capo and Patrick Allen Murray for donating their time and amazing talents to help us keep us entertained for hours at Bill Ellis Park. The joint effort of Progressives of Grace Harbor County and Indivisible Ocean Shores, they brought it off beautifully. Shout out to Pamela Grace, Sylvia Fain, and Rhonda Erlinson for all their hard work. The generosity of our local artists and merchants was evident in the bounty of door prizes donated. A European facial, 2 beautiful handmade quilts, an exquisite octopus painting, handmade bracelets, earrings, cards, gift certificates, and even a snooter dude. The special thanks to Alex Suarez, Jules Wyatt, and Soul Center, Mary Mitchell, Chuck Anderson, Gina McCauley, David Dune, Corrine Holden, Lee's Wellness, Sylvia Fain, and others for their generous donations. The weather could not have been better, the balloon animals any cuter, or the camaraderie any more heartwarming. The community event is what coming together for peace and unity looks like. This definitely should be an annual event. The event will be broadcast on North Beach TV, Channel 68, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. What a wonderful change from the fiasco of the previous Sunday. On a separate note, I am disappointed to not see the revocation of COVID-19 emergency orders on tonight's city agenda that you began working on 2 weeks ago. This isn't rocket science, and a simple agenda item, no controversy. If the agenda was too busy, it could even have been on the consent agenda. I'm pretty sure that the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is not being enforced. I thank you for your time.
Melissa Smith, Freedom Isn't Free.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and citizens of Ocean Shores. Freedom isn't free, and it comes with a tremendous cost. The brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk on September 10th was a shameful act of violence that must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. This is not merely an assault on one individual. It is an attack on the principles of free speech, open debate, and civil discourse that are supposed to define our country, our nation, the United States of America. Regardless of political differences, the use of violence to silence or intimidate anyone is utterly unacceptable, and it should not and will not be tolerated. This includes right here in Ocean Shores, where the divisive rhetoric, relentless social media bullying, and constant protests say anything but peace and unity. The signs, t-shirts, posters calling for the assassination of our current president, the upside-down American flags, calling half the country fascists and Nazis, say anything but peace and unity. Most recently, a Facebook post calling our own mayor and 2 citizens white supremacists. And you know who you are, as we do. This says anything but peace and unity. This has got to stop. These divisive, hateful words and the bullying demeanor is going to get one of our very own citizens hurt or worse. People in this town are tired of your rhetoric, tired of your protests, tired of your hate, but perhaps that's your goal. What we are witnessing in our country is a dangerous and disturbing trend, this rise in political hatred and an alarming willingness to resort to aggression, verbally as well as physically, when faced with opposing views. This has become the new norm here in Ocean Shores. This brutal, horrific assassination is a stark reminder of the growing intolerance and division tearing at the fabric of our society and, most importantly, our city. When ideas are met with violence instead of reasoned argument, we all lose. Our nation loses. We cannot allow this to become the new normal. This will not stand in our civil society. Instead, we must stand firm in defending our freedoms, our right to disagree, and our shared commitment to peace and respect. The attacks on free speech and individual safety must stop now. Charlie Kirk built his platform making a good faith effort to model civil political discourse and debate in the public square. His entire project was built on reaching across the divide and using speech, not violence, to address and resolve the issues. We must do better as a community. Thank you.
Sylvia Fain, what now?
Mayor and community, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try to read something tonight. Hope, peace, a rally, being genuine, honest. A couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago, we were going to have a peace rally here, and it just bombed. It was really sad. It was heartbreaking. The person I was personally working with on it, I know she was heartbroken too. I was heartbroken. It took me a week and a half to get over it. The division in this community is thick, and we all know that. But denying half of the community to do what they feel they need to do, such as speak their voice, protest, peacefully come together, those are all really, really important democratic things that we should all adhere to and protect, not try to stifle. If we want to work together, that would be wonderful. I still want to work together. But unfortunately, when you get a lot of extra people commenting and jumping in, it complicates everything so much. I'm extending my arm. If the rest of the community would still like to do something in a month or two to try to communicate together, to get together, to not have it become a divisive thing, which it did. And that was really unintentional on my part or the other organizer's part. PJ, come here. Come here, PJ. PJ and I can be friends, and we can love each other. And the baloney stuff right there needs to go, right. We just need to let it go. Let's work together, and everybody work together. Do you want to say something?
Well, we did try, Sylvia.
We tried.
And I was sad that you weren't able to come over with the sound system. I know it was kind of an issue for some, but it was intended to be a joint gathering. So possibly in the future. I like the fact that you said, let's give it a little time. So
Let's give it a little time.
there's a lot of
maybe a
pain right now.
candlelight
So
thing or something.
there you
That's
go.
right.
Candlelight.
We've all been hurting from this.
Thank you,
Let's
Sylvia.
stop because it's divisive and somebody is going to get hurt. I agree with that. If we don't start working together a little bit. So forget my speech. That's it. Love everybody.
That's time.
That concludes public comment.
All right, we're going to go on to staff report, and our city administrator, Scott Anderson, will be up first.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens. I'll start with the good news. At the last council meeting, I announced that we were getting a grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce to work on our berm, in addition to work at Peninsula Court and Mariner Court as to strengthen those up to fight erosion issues. And this is one of those happy times where I was actually happy to turn out to be wrong. We are not getting $600,000. We're getting $864,000 from the Department of Commerce. So thank you very much to Tim Hiles, our grant manager, who's been working through that process, and to Marshall for his efforts on that. But that's really big news for us because it will allow us to focus some of our efforts on other issues. And that leads to my next topic. Congresswoman Emily Randall will be here in Ocean Shores tomorrow. She will be meeting with the administration. While we will be talking slightly about erosion matters, we will also be talking about our fire break and just general developments in the community regarding healthcare and a number of other things. So we look forward to that visit by our Congresswoman, and it's the first that she's met with the administration. Last week, we had Greater Grays Harbor, Inc. come out and visit the city of Ocean Shores. The mayor and I were there to welcome them, and all three of our county commissioners were there, in addition to our county executive, Sam Kim. In addition to touring the Coastal Interpretive Center, we also took them out to the berm, because the county is a key partner in this, and wanted to show them what we are working on, and also were to give them some update on general erosion issues and show them some of the matters that we're facing in dealing with that. And it was a very, very productive and collaborative meeting. And we were also able to show off Ocean Shores generally. They were able to go see Oi Hut and sort of see all the developments that are happening in our community and things that are changing for the positive. Speaking of things that are changing for the positive, as you know, we signed a contract with a group called Creative Marketing. And that offered us an opportunity at an extremely reasonable price to do 3 segments that would promote Ocean Shores on King 5 Evening Magazine and 3 on Como's Seattle Refined. We just shot the second one of the King 5 Evening Magazine, and that will air on September 29th. And on this Thursday, Como will be down here with Seattle Refined. And the topics of the first one were family-friendly Ocean Shores, things you can do with your family and your kids off the beach, all the opportunities we have if you come down with your family. And the second one is sort of focusing on romantic getaways for couples. So different topics, different things, but we're trying to get all types of tourists to come down to Ocean Shores. I think this is going to be a really successful episode. A couple episodes, I look forward to watching them. And then finally tonight, quick ad lib. The COVID-19 policies, I will take responsibility for that not being on the agenda tonight. We had 3 of our department heads that were out last week. We had 2 key staff members that were out last week, and we were slammed with a plethora of meetings, everything from the port. It shouldn't be that hard, but it does. There are a few tricks to it. Some of the COVID resolutions have executive orders have expired. Some have not. Some were extended, and it's just a matter of getting it all in package. They will come to you at the next council meeting, and all the ordinances, all of the executive orders related to COVID-19 will be rescinded at that time, should council choose to do that. Thank you.
All right, we got council liaison reports and committee reports. And Richard, would you like to start us?
Thank you. So I signed warrants, and the radio board met today. The radio board didn't have anything specific to share with this meeting. There's negotiations about moving the transmitting tower from Copalis Crossing down here to behind the IGA, but that's in the works and maybe a few years before that actually transpires. And that's all I have.
All right, thanks. Allison?
I sign warrants.
Lisa Scott?
I had several golf course meetings. I attended agenda setting, and the public safety meeting was rescheduled, so we didn't have one.
Lisa Agreeable?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended agenda setting and the Public Works Committee, and I don't want to step on anything that might be in the mayor's report, but the Public Works Committee covered the updates to the health clinic, the South End Fire Station, the fresh waterways spraying, including mentioning that we do have a town hall coming up in October on the fresh waterways, October the 21st. Talked about the roof repair that we'll talk about tonight. The new convention center sign is in. Addressed erosion and some great information on just our water quality and some of the things our water department is doing to improve the quality of our water.
All right, thank you. Tom?
I attended the Parks Board, and they're getting some stuff done. The parks are looking better. We do need some lights on the skateboard park put up and stuff, so I think we put money aside to buy some lights. Maybe we can get those up pretty soon before it starts getting dark. Okay?
All right, Denise?
I attended an online meeting with the state auditor's office for a risk assessment inquiry, which comes before our audit. I also attended Public Works. Lisa covered most of it. I just wanted to add that in terms of the South Fire Station, we should be seeing the home moved from Point Brown to the fire station, to the south location, the first week of October, and we're looking at possibly the end of this year, or more realistically, the beginning of next year for the move-in. The other thing in terms of the fresh waterways is Aquatechnics, actually, the day of our Public Works, they were performing a post-treatment survey to look at the water quality, and it was also said that based on the feedback that we've gotten from citizens, as well as the results that they will get, there may be some additional spraying. So we will find out more of that at the town hall.
All right, thanks, Denise. Yes, we're getting pricing on the lighting. We've started that for the skate park. We're having a real problem at North Bay. We've had a ton of damage there, into the thousands of dollars. So we're going to go with some time locks on the bathrooms because of all the damage to the bathrooms. And yeah, it's vandalism. But I will tell you, if anybody sees anything odd going on, please report that to the police, because it's costing a lot of money. And we're trying to have nice things for everybody here in town, and it's getting tore apart. We're getting a lot of graffiti tagged, like at the baseball field, also in that same park. So it's sad. It's hard to have anything nice. There's always somebody that wants to tear it apart, I guess. Timber bridges are going to be inspected. That starts tomorrow on that. This is also the last weekend for the green waste. So keep that in mind if you got any more yard work that you want to try to get done before the winter. We will be done with that this Saturday. Also, I don't know how many people change their own oil, but the oil recycling is on Wednesdays 12 to 3, and that will continue year-round. So just keep that in mind. The golf course, we had a meeting today with the golf course with Troon, and that's really improved from last year. We're looking at bringing in $163,000 more than we did last year on that. Troon also has a big tournament. There's 72 teams signed up for the first weekend in October. They have this tournament every year, but it's they're doing a good job of promoting it. So if you can think about that, 72 teams, we can't take on any more. We're going to run out of daylight. So that's very well attended on that. So that's all I got.
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, we don't have any old business, so we'll go to new business, and this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, establishing Ocean Shores Municipal Code, Chapter 17.49, relating to short-term rentals, providing for servability, and establishing an effective date. And this will be presented by our Finance Director, Sarah Logan.
Good evening, council, citizens. We originally brought this ordinance to the city council back in March, and we had worked on it pretty decently. I presented it with our, at then that time, our business licensing clerk and payroll clerk. Once we reviewed it and we went through it with Kendra, we had more questions and we kind of wanted to tighten it up a little bit more. And so that's why you're seeing it as a first reading, because we didn't think that those changes reflected well enough for a second reading. So a lot of this is the same and there are different things, but that's why it's a first reading and we don't expect it to pass tonight and for all of you to kind of review it. Specifically on our breakdown, so this, as we said, was to protect the neighborhood character, public health, and welfare while addressing the rise in vacation rentals. As we can all agree, that's definitely something you see them on the VRBO and the Airbnb, and that doesn't actually mean that they're complying with all things that they should be, or even in the zones that they should be. But with that, the city in their current ordinance and current codes doesn't have the ability to really go after or make people comply. It's kind of just a slap on the wrist. And even the ones that are in the zones that they should be aren't actually following a list of things that they should. Say if you went to Leavenworth or those different places, that also Long Beach that has Airbnbs. The specific changes, or not changes, but reinforcing the requirement for business licensing, proof of liability insurance is mandatory. And we went back and forth with the attorney about that, because it's like, well, they could cancel it the next morning. Well, for liability purposes, we are going to require mandatory show of liability insurance in effect at every time they get re-inspected and their permit gets reissued. There was a question brought up by Councilmember Griebel, because we had put in here that the occupancy, but not to exceed 10 people. So when you go to an Airbnb or a VRBO, you see, sleeps 14, which I never believe, because that means somebody's on a floor. But it's because they're allowed to be. We had put in here that it was occupancy, but not to exceed 10. That, of course, can be changed. Councilmember Griebel did provide different VRBOs, Airbnbs that have the ability to do 14 or what have you. So that would be a council decision, and one that should certainly be discussed. That's just what we put in here. And because I had to find out as we were writing this, the occupancy is decided by International Building Code 1004.5, and it's the square footage divided by 200. Look at. So anyway, it just reinforces that there has to be one on-site parking spot for every 4 guests. And as you know from attending different ones, it will state no more than 1 car, no more than 2 cars. This reinforces that. The main specific thing was the infractions. So we had kind of dealt with individuals within the community that were in those B1, B2 areas, or weren't complying with anything that we had currently in our code. And in truth, it was so low that you could naturally just work it into your business model and be done with it. Like, you didn't really get a fine, and you didn't really get anything happening at court. So that was the big part here. So the civil penalties actually start at $500 for the first day and $100 for every additional day, where before, I believe it was so in 7.80, which is what we currently have it following, it could start at like $25 and then move up to $500, and it just didn't. That doesn't hurt anybody. And I don't mean to be mean, but the people that are doing these things right and are paying into transient rental and all of those that help our LTAC dollars are doing the right things. So then it also has Class B misdemeanor and up to $1,000 fine or 90 days in jail. Any unpaid fines can be liened against the property. So that's the other caveat to that, is that you don't just walk away from those fines. You don't just build it into your business model. It's actually a lien on your property. I think we answered the occupancy. Again, that'll be a discussion for you all and what you decide. The last specific question was, it was really important to the city because we do have a lot of non-primary residents, that live far, far away, and then they do these VRBOs and Airbnbs, but they don't have anybody that supervises it or goes in and maybe cleans it and these things. So what we had written in here is that it's a 2-hour or 1 hour. So in the event that you hire a company, they could be within a 2-hour range. If the owner wants to do it, they need to be within a 1-hour range. Again, a topic for your conversation if you want to proceed with that. Those were kind of the main changes that were also kind of in the last one, but they're just much more defined now. This ordinance this time has been reviewed by the city attorney twice, our prosecuting attorney, because it was important that he be able to kind of solidify anything in a court system, our police chief, me, our city clerk. So again, these permits are non-transferable, so every time there's an ownership change, a new permit compliance would need to be renewed at our permit office. And I think that's kind of all I have.
All right, thanks. There was quite a few changes, and we were encouraged to do so by our prosecuting attorney and our lawyer. Is there any comments out? Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Council. Kurt Dooley, Ocean Shores residents. I absolutely support the intent of this ordinance. It's overdue, and in many respects, it's quite solid. I just wanted to raise a few concerns that could potentially weaken it. First, the condominium exemption in 17.49.040A. As written, it could allow entire condo buildings to convert into short-term rentals. That defeats the purpose of protecting neighborhood character and should be tightened up a bit. Second, the fines in 17.49.120A. $500 penalty and $100 per day fine for failure to correct a violation may sound tough, but many rentals earn $400 to $500 a night in a single night. So if fines are cheaper than profits, some owners may treat them as the cost of doing business. So penalties should be high enough to deter violations. Third, complaints and enforcement in 17.49.060F. The ordinance requires all complaints to be, quote, resolved, but it doesn't define resolution. An owner could simply respond without actually fixing the problem. Resolution should mean corrected to the satisfaction of the city, not just acknowledged. Fourth, tax collection in 17.49.090B6. The city requires proof that taxes are being paid, but the state won't release individual tax records. So owners could still underreport. Other cities like Austin, Santa Cruz, and even entire states like Florida require Airbnb, Vrbo, and other companies themselves to collect and remit the lodging taxes directly to the city. That guarantees compliance and steady revenue for Ocean Shores. Ocean Shores can and should do the same instead of chasing dozens of owners one by one. Lastly, the annual inspections. They're a good safeguard, but only if the city has the staff to perform them. If inspections are delayed, it creates a gray area where rentals may claim the right to operate without oversight. In short, my suggestion is to tighten the condo loophole, strengthen fines, clarify complaint resolution, require platforms to collect taxes, and then make the inspections realistic. Without those fixes, this ordinance risks looking good on paper, but weak in practice. Thank you.
All right, yes, go ahead, Jan.
Jan Hyatt, thank you. I think this is excellent that you're proceeding ahead with this. It sounds good. I did not read the entire document. Is there some place in there when I sign up and I get a permit from the city that all of this information is provided to me and I sign a paper that says I've received this information and I agree to abide by it? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, council members. David Lynn, a 17-year resident of Ocean Shores. First, I'd like to note that in the recitals section, the third whereas should read requiring properties to be registered rather than requiring properties to register, since they can't register themselves. But moving along, the city, I think, should be cautious with the short-term rentals and the impact that it has on rental availability for full-time residents. The more that we allow the short-term rentals, the fewer properties available for year-round residents. And this decline in the number of properties available will put upward pressure on rental prices, which is currently a problem that we still need to deal with. So we need to thoroughly understand the long-term impacts of the decision, not just short-term benefits that may accrue in a certain area. We need to understand the financial and economic impacts of the ordinance on individuals as well as the city. The proposal will require significant time by code enforcement to ensure that the restrictions imposed by this ordinance are being observed. Currently, the city is not enforcing many long-standing code requirements, and one wonders how these new requirements will be enforced. Are additional personnel budgeted for the increased workload? Allowing up to 10 people above the age of 2 to occupy one house is far too many. It invites party houses with the likelihood of raucous behavior. A better limit would be based upon a minimum number of square feet of living area, say 350 square feet per person. I don't think we want 10 adults and 2 babies occupying a 1,000-square-foot house. With this ordinance, as well as all others, the precautionary principles should be observed. There are 4 central tenets to this. Taking preventive action in the face of uncertainty. In this case, there's an uncertain impact on our stock of rental properties, so we must proceed cautiously. Shifting the burden of proof to the proponents of an activity. In the recitals, it is asserted that the city has seen an increase in homeowners wanting to operate a nightly rental. The proponents of this ordinance should demonstrate that it is, in fact, in the best interest of all citizens. In increasing public participation in decision-making, like several recent proposed ordinances, this one has sprung up and is now being considered. At a minimum, an economic analysis of the impact of the ordinance, along with financial modeling, should be developed with the rationale for its adoption explicitly defined. Thank you for your time.
Any other? Yes, go ahead, Shannon.
Shannon Rubin, Canterbury Inn. I just wanted to comment on the occupancy. I agree with the other speakers that I think that you really need to think about that. At the Canterbury, we have occupancy limits even in our larger rooms, and we have people violate those all the time. So they'll arrive, it says, we say you could only have 4 people, they'll arrive with 6, or they'll try and sneak some in. And we have 24-hour staff to monitor that. So I really think that you need to think about this, because the higher the limit, you don't have an owner there supervising, right? And so you subject your residents to, like they said, parties and things like that. When I was living in town, there was a lot near me that was a camping lot, and they would frequently have multiple trailers on it. And when they were here during the summer, everyone in the neighborhood knew, and it was really obnoxious and really not a fun time. With having a house, that's even worse, because it's more prone to it. And I also want to bring up a bathroom issue. If you have 14 people in a house, most houses in Ocean Shores are not your 2,800 square feet houses. And so, that's a lot of people and not a lot of restrooms, and people, especially males, no offense, start using yards and things like that when they've had a few beers. So I just want to bring that up. It's really hard to police in a hotel that you have 24-hour staff. I could only imagine what you would bring to the area. And I think that that's something that you really need to consider, that most houses in Ocean Shores are not 2,800 square feet.
All right, do we have somebody else? Yes, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, Don Williams. I think it's a pretty good ordinance. I have some comments. First of all, the overnight rentals are only allowed in zoning B1 and B2, and that's covered in our zoning ordinance. This is also covered in this ordinance in section 1749030 on zoning. So that brings up a point about the appeal process, and that's 1749115. What that says is that anybody who submits a application that's not accepted by the city can appeal to a hearing examiner. But this opens it up for somebody submitting an application in a residential zone, and then forcing that to a hearing examiner, where the zoning is really controlled by the city council, not a hearing examiner. So I think there ought to be a term in that section on appeal that only allows a hearing examiner to appeal to if it's on a property that's already zoned B1 and B2. If the application is not for a B1 or B2, then the applicant has to get that straightened out first with the city council. And you just had a hearing a month ago about someone wanted to change it from a residential to B1, but that person under this ordinance could apply for that and force it into a hearing examiner. And it belongs with the city council first. Some other comments are on the insurance policy. That's called a landlord policy. And I think there ought to be a clause in it. You can do this where the insurance company has to notify the city if that policy ever lapses automatically. That's a clause that can be added to the insurance policy, and there ought to be a minimum liability limit. That's not stated here, but there ought to be a dollar amount. On the parking, on page, I think it's on page 1749 060C, having one parking spot for every 4 guests is not enough. I think you have to have a lot more parking available, on-site parking. And the local property representative, that person's name should be on the permit. I don't think it's required to be on the permit. Somehow the people are notified of that, but it should be actually on the permit. And because neighboring properties are supposed to be notified of who that representative person is, I don't know how you're going to do that. How do you notify the representative of the property to all the neighboring properties that's required in the ordinance? And also a reference is made to something called a good neighbor policy. I didn't see what is a good neighbor policy. How is that going to be written? It was not part of the ordinance. And finally, I wonder, does this ordinance also apply to Oyet Bay? Because Oyet Bay is not an exception in this ordinance, and if you don't want to apply this to Oyet Bay, it ought to be stated that in some way that they're exempt from this. And finally,
That's time.
okay, great, thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? I see none. All right, council. Yes, Lisa Scott.
My question's more for the fire chief or the assistant chief. So my concern is when you're in B1 or B2 and you may have a residential property that you're going to Airbnb it, and you are going up to potentially 14 people or whatever the limit is, even 10. At what point do you guys want to intercede with sprinklers? Because you're kind of changing the makeup at that point. It's no longer being used somewhat for a single family residence. And I know even in the state, if you have a group home or something along those lines, anything over 8 people requires sprinklers. So just quick question on that.
Airbnbs, we follow the Washington State Fire Code. They need to be sprinkled. It's just that simple. What's that?
Thanks.
But I
But-
do believe even if they are Airbnbs, it's only new ones. Like if people have already been operating as they should be, they don't have to have them. It's only like if you apply for a new permit. I just don't want that to get messed up and have a whole bunch of people go, well, I've been doing all of the right things this whole time and nobody's, So that's just something that's been brought up in the past also.
Two more things.
Yeah, real quick.
Go ahead.
Change of use. It's called change of use. So if you have an existing facility and it's building coded as a XYZ or a B1 S2, and you change that use, the new code applies.
Right, thank you, guys. Anybody else on council? Any
See, he was
questions?
going to say that a lot better.
Yes, Richard?
I'd just like to say I appreciate all of the work that has gone into this, and I think that overall it's a pretty good ordinance. I submitted some what I think are grammatical corrections to the city, and I look forward to seeing those that apply enacted as this comes back. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, yes, go ahead, Lisa Griebel.
We had a comment about the good neighbor policy, and that was provided additionally to us. So we do have one of those.
That's correct. That was put with our original one back in March. However, when I put my packet together to give to the clerk, I negated to give it to her. So it was put on the agenda bill, but it will be available in the amended agenda tomorrow.
All right, thanks. Are we good here? We're ready to move on to the next one?
I
All
think
right.
the only little bit that we need specifically is some direction on, and maybe that's for a different time, but some direction on the occupancy, because I know that that's kind of like a big discussion item. So I don't know if we bring back the same ordinance next time and give council kind of time to mull that over, and just leave it at that for now.
I feel comfortable if the fire department would weigh in on that a little bit along
Okay.
with your building inspector. That would make me
perfect.
feel better.
Yes, Richard.
I did have one other question, and I'm just trying to understand the logic of why the supervisor could be 2 hours away, but the owner had to be 1 hour away. And I'm just curious about the reasoning behind that.
I think specifically because companies that are made to do this, they know what they need to do. They know how fast they need to respond. They have people that watch those things. So it's almost like if they're a little bit farther away, that's okay. They probably have people that live or live in Ocean Shores, whereas an owner doesn't. Like, they don't run these kind of entities, and so it would be them and having them a little bit closer just if there's any problems, or the police bust a 14-person party and there's a fire code violation, the owner can be there and answer for that, I think.
Thank you. That makes some sense.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to item 7 here. It's a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to award the Coastal Interpretive Center roof project to Western Washington Construction. That's presented by our project manager, Becky Leach.
Good evening, everybody. So there were pictures in the agenda packet. Some lovely pictures there. The Interpretive Center has a roof leak that has been causing damage to the roof and the ceiling above one of the exhibits. And the attic space is filled, that's the lovely picture, with bat guano pretty much throughout the whole attic space. And the insulation needs to be removed and cleaned out, and then new insulation will be installed. So that work includes all of those things, and also sealing up so that the bats can't get back into the attic space to use it for their restroom. Low bid was awarded to Western Washington Construction. We did invite 25 contractors to bid, and we only got a bid in on time from Western Washington Construction. That is $64,835.95. But after the agenda came out, we got a late bid from J.W. Swigert Construction, and that was for $75,579. So the Western Washington is low bid. And then coincidentally, a prior estimate from ServPro just to remove the insulation and clean that out was $66,000. So our low bid of $64,835.95 we feel is a good bid for this work to be done, and it will be paid out of Capital Facilities Fund.
All right, we got any public comment? Yes, Don?
Yeah, Don Williams. I read this as being a partial repair of the roof, not the entire roof. But doesn't this really mean that if a portion of the roof is bad, you're going to have a failure elsewhere? And also, there's no fund called a Capital Facilities Fund. So is this going to be paid for out of Fund 301? That's called a Capital Improvement Fund. Is that the fund the money's coming from? And if so, I didn't see any bars code for repairs against this particular building. And so I'm wondering, this really does need a budget modification. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Council? Any questions? No? All right. Yes, Lisa?
I would like to go ahead and make a motion request by the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to approve Western Washington Construction to perform the work on the Coastal Interpretive Center roof repairs.
Second.
All right, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next, we have a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to award work needed for determining the correct and allowable path for the new fire break to Geo Engineers. And that's going to be presented by Becky Leach.
The city sent an RFQ out for doing the preliminary wetland fire break alignment, design level wetland delineation and report, which includes surveys, mapping, and reporting, and they will also coordinate with regulatory agencies. We had a really good turnout of the RFQ responses, and I have attached the evaluation sheets as well to the agenda. We had 4 turned in, and based on geoengineers' work at Ocean Shores in the past, the work plan that they have specifically for this project, and their references, Marshall and I selected them to do this work. It is $106,000 and will be paid out of the fire break maintenance budget, and that budget currently has $150,000 in it. This does not include any of the delineation work outside of the fire break, so it is just for that fire break property.
All right, thanks. And the city believes that this is really a necessary step, and we have to have that done first before we can move forward with anything else. Most of us in the city, and I hope most of the people that live here, see this as a emergency type situation. We've dodged a few bullets with fires, and we don't want to be the next Lahaina or the next California. So we're moving as fast as we can on that. We've been meeting with our state legislatures. We're meeting with our congressperson tomorrow about this. So we need to move on this. So.
And what geoengineers will be doing with this work is keeping us on the up and up so that we are not doing a fire break through wetlands and areas that we aren't supposed to. We know that we can't do a straight line down for the fire break, so they'll give us exactly where it needs to go.
And we'll also get a count on what credits we need to get that area cleared out. Any comments from the citizens here tonight? No? All right, council. Yes, Richard?
This is a thought that just occurred to me. Is it possible, and this is a little bit off subject, but is it possible that that fire break could become a mountain bike trail to kind of complete that loop? It's just a thought to throw in as you are planning.
It would be great to be able to do that. We'll have to see how the funding shakes out for it. I know when we did the other fire break and the dune trail, they had to be separate because of the way the grant funding was. So that is definitely discussion.
We can walk on it, and you might be able to ride a mountain bike on it, but we can't pave it.
And that's my point.
That's the issue.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But to be able to mountain bike on it would satisfy a lot of need, I think. And it's just a thought as you're planning. Consider that in the plan.
Well, our number one issue is to get the fire department back there. So anyway, any other comments from council? Yeah, Lisa?
I'd just like to go ahead and make a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores to award the work needed for determining the correct and allowable path for a new fire break to geoengineers.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, approving the hire of a part-time emergency management coordinator. This will be presented by Fire Chief Mike Mandela. I don't know, you going to be up there too, Brian? All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I promise I'll take less than an hour. You might recall last May 13th. How many people recall May 13th last year? When the council approved the amended ordinance regarding emergency management as well as the companion municipal code, because they were 40 years old. And you probably heard me more than one time, maybe be a little preachy about what we need for getting our heads around and wrapping our arms around a good, comprehensive emergency management plan that covers a plethora of topics. You see on the agenda, Bill, some of the things that I would propose need to be done. I have figured out a way that, I'll just put it bluntly, I would like to do that work for you. I would like to retire from the fire department effective November 1st or December 1st.
What?
I could do that. I could do that work. Have you seen my resume? I just want to let you know that I am qualified to do it. I think you'll recognize that from the resume. Sarah and I figured out a way to pay for this with I know Rich Hartman's not here, but he doesn't like to hear this, salary savings, because they're not. They're unspent salaries from vacant positions through the departments that will benefit most. The fire department, police department, city hall / executive, and all of the public works and their sub-departments. They benefit the most from having an emergency management plan, as do the citizens. In fact, the citizens will benefit most. They benefit most, so they should bear the burden of the cost. The worst case scenario, as you can see here, is in 2025, 2026, is $78,000 total. I'd work 20 hours a week, part-time, no benefits. I won't need them anymore. I got Medicare, Medicare supplement, all that jazz. So I'm good to go. If you think that's a good idea, I'd appreciate your support. If not, we'll get back together and talk about another alternative.
I'd like to add on to that. The fact that we have Assistant Chief Mandela here is just in our city is a blessing. He's been amazing for me at the fire department. However, when we look at the previous emergency management stuff that we dug up, trying to plan for the Great Shakeout drill that we tried to implement somewhat, it's archaic. We're the highest assessed tax value in the entire county. We have a ton of infrastructure. We have a various amount of threats, not just wildfire, everything from earthquake, possible tsunami, all the way to an active shooter scenario. And different departments have their own ideology of what they will do in these events. Rather than a formidable plan of communications, integration, and resource allocation. As much as I hate losing Mandela from the fire department, he would also be accessible to me part-time while we would integrate a new assistant chief into his position. So he would be at arm's length. I believe we talked about him possibly working out of the fire department or across the street. But to formulate these plans and get a really strong foundation of what our emergency plans are in case of each event and build a template, I think is detrimental to the health and welfare of the city.
All right, thank you. Anybody? Public comment? Yes, Don? And then you can go next, Kurt.
Okay, paying for full-time positions out of part-time or unpaid salaries is not a good solution in the long term. So my question is this particular proposal finances for only to the end of 2026, and is this project going to be finished by the end of 2026? Thank you.
All right, thanks. Go ahead, Kurt.
Emergency management is never finished. It'd have to be budgeted otherwise later on. As much experience as I have in emergency management, I can't hold a candle to Mike Mandela. So there's nobody better around here for this position. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other public comment? Yes, go ahead, Lillian.
Lillian Broadbent, longtime resident. I am totally in favor of this. I snarked over to Mr. Ritter and said, "What are you doing, Empire Building?" When I hear what the plan is, I think it's genius. I think it's a great way to go. I believe that once the documents are created and the plan established, that our current fire personnel whoever is in the chief, the assistant chief, combined with our police department, are quite capable of keeping it up to date. Our threats don't change a lot down here. And in my opinion, if the ultimate hits, we're all dead anyway. But it has been brought up time after time after time that when people come in town, there's nothing documented about what the plan is. And the best plan to date has been for all our fire personnel and police personnel to hightail it ahead of everyone else and get to Hogan's Corner, assuming that they'll be able to rescue those of us who didn't. I think this is wonderful, and I think it's something we should absolutely jump on this opportunity. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, council. Yes, Lisa?
Dawn, I appreciate your comment too on the budget expenditure, but I'm assuming, well, pretty sure the reason it only goes through 26 is that finishes up our budget cycle, so we could address this in the next biennial budget.
All right, thanks. Richard?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, approving the hire of a part-time emergency management coordinator.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any other comments? Yes, Tom?
You did say that your medical and stuff was paid for, right?
I got my own, yeah.
So it's half cost then?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, we don't have a executive session. Agenda review, which will be October 2nd at 9 a.m. That's a Thursday. Be council members Scott, Sires, and Hartman won't be here, will he? Okay, supposed to be Hartman. If not, we'll ask somebody else to step in if he's not here. So for good of the order, we'll start with Denise.
I do appreciate the efforts that Sylvia Fain and PJ Faria made in terms of coming together, and I am glad that they spoke together tonight, and hopefully something else will be planned in which the groups can unite and at least start talking. I also want to say that I'm very happy to see the emergency management coordinator. Lillian spoke that it is overdue, and I think we all agree with that. So,
All right, thanks. Tom?
I have nothing today.
All right. Lisa Griebel?
Thank you, Mayor. And I did like the public comments tonight that just talked about peace and unity, but also just respecting one another in our community. But I also appreciate that that doesn't mean that the expectation that we all think alike. Because a healthy community is one where there's a variety of opinions and a variety of perspectives. And it doesn't mean that we expect our community to stay silent if they don't or are concerned about what's going on at the local or national or even at the world level. And I think it's important that we all appreciate freedom of speech and celebrate our rights of freedom of speech. And that as leaders, city leaders, and that we know that it's important for our community members to let us know what if they don't like something, because that's that reflection and that listening is how we make important changes. So again, great that we are appreciating one another and we are hoping for peace, but also knowing that we expect difference of opinion and we appreciate and respect people's rights to have a difference of opinion.
Right, thanks. Lisa Scott?
Amen. Thank you, Lisa. That was perfect. I agree. We all, if we all have the same opinion, what a boring world we'd actually live in. And we just need to remember to be respectful of other people's opinions, and it goes a long way. So I appreciate that. Lastly, I will be Zooming into the council meeting on the 7th. I apologize. I hopefully will have reception, but I will do my best. I will be on my way to a conference, so I have to Zoom in.
All right, Allison.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Denise and Lisa were talking about. We have got to come together as a community and work together. And the nastiness that I have seen lately is heartbreaking. And I hope to not see that anymore, and for our community to come together as we have in the past. And on another note, this Saturday is the last Saturday for our city market, which has been such a great thing all summer. So if you get a chance, get out and visit our vendors. They've done a great job with the market this year.
All right, thanks. Richard. Turn your mic on.
Thought I had. Interesting. My wife and I had a discussion earlier today on the subject that Denise and Lisa and Allison, and it's the nature of politics to divide us into us and them. And that makes us the good guys or the bad guys. And I absolutely agree what all of the other council members have said. Let's create a community of us. And we may disagree with each other, but let's do that in a respectful manner. And so us and us is what I would like to see. On another note, I would like to see on the next agenda, on the next council meeting, I would like to see a discussion regarding advanced computer software specifically to help proofread agenda packet documents. And I think that in that discussion, I'd like to see a committee form to say what are the avenues that are appropriate to use advanced software to proofread, because all too often we get documents, the staff works hard to generate good documents, but none of us are grammar experts, and so the advanced software can move us in that direction, I think. So I'd like to set on the next agenda.
All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
This has been a live presentation of North Beach TV. We now return you to our regular programming. Already in progress.